What's up? What's up? What's up? I don't know if there's anyone in here. I'm not actually signed in on my OBS to see if anyone's in the chat. But if you are there, happy Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. Let's get into things here. So just a quick plug about the jungle. So this is obviously my Discord server. We're just upgrading things, trying to do things better, refreshing content, so on and so forth. There's a joining offer up, that's all I'll say. And I need to say thank you to our sponsor. We have a sponsor, which is nice. So TX Flow, Layer 1 and Perpdex sponsoring the stream for a while. So please support them by using my ref link. You can farm what will be an upcoming airdrop there. The point system isn't live yet, so you will be very early if you do. I'll be trading there a bit myself. Let's get into things. So we'll start with the NASDAQ. I mean, it's pretty abundantly clear, isn't it, that we had this move up, we lost momentum. We spent some time bracketing here since mid-June, really. Clearly a shift of trend taking place here with 730 and 90-day VWAPs all crossing bearish. We got a nice clean displacement below this value last week on Friday and a bearish retest. On Tuesday last week. We got that bearish retest. So to me, this is now a downtrending market. Yes, we're very likely to get squeezes on the way down, but there's really only one area we can look at, which is this sort of high volume node at this point. So yes, we do have yearly VWAP, previous quarter's value low, the 365-day VWAP, in this kind of void, but I would expect this all to get filled out and for us to come and test this higher volume node ultimately. So, that's a good 15% move down from this breakdown, and it's obviously going to be a big headwind for crypto over, the coming weeks, perhaps. I would expect it to play out over that kind of time frame. But it's ugly and it's kind of unequivocal, isn't it? I mean, you can't really argue that there's anything bullish about this chart right now, other than zooming out and looking at it on a sort of monthly basis and saying, okay, we're in this perpetual uptrend. Locally, we are downtrending probably towards this high volume node. And that's really all there is to say about it. So as I say, yes, we may get bounces, but unless we can, form value somewhere and then break out of that to the upside, this is very likely to die. Someone's saying the stream is frozen. I don't think it is. Hopefully it's not anyway. Please correct yourself if that is the case, because the stream should be working fine as far as I can tell. Let's move on to BTC. So okay, so let's come to, let's just clean this up a little bit. All right, so essentially what we have is, this range we formed from sort of early February through to April, breakout, clean this up a bit more. And then a big failure, and we've just been bracketing down here now for 6-7 weeks or so. 2 attempts to break to the upside and to accept within this value, which have both failed. And today, another attempt to break higher, which has also failed. So we're completely unable to break above this value, to re-accept to re-accept above previous month's value high. And at the moment, given that we're re-accepting into value again, I kind of have to assume that we're likely to try and traverse this value now towards 60K. So, last Friday, we obviously sold into this point of control, this range point of control here. And that was really key to hold if we had a chance of trading up. So, I was bullish against this level. It was pretty well defended on the passive side, a good passive bid, lots of depth on the bid side. We did trade up, obviously had a pretty big attempt this morning into the New York Open. We got that open drive, which failed. So I have to be bearish against this level now. And unless we can, reclaim 66K, probably have to assume that we try to trend lower. Let's just zoom into the 4-hour and then we can look at it in a bit more detail here. I also just want to come to the higher time frame first of all. So let's just do that first of all. Could have just done that on the same chart, I guess. All right, so here's our long-term VWAPs. Oops, sorry. Yeah, here's our long-term VWAPs. So our weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly long-term VWAPs. And I just really want to focus on the yearly here. So if we look at the yearly, sorry, I want that markup. What do we have? Well, we have 2024's value, right? So this capped downside initially in November. We had a decent bounce, obviously coming sweeping into this gap, broke below the value high, traded into VWAP, couldn't find acceptance below VWAP, got that return into this value high, and we now lost VWAP and are unable to get back above. So this is clearly a huge level of resistance that we are being capped at. And I think it's very likely that we complete this rotation from here down towards this 50k area. Now again, that doesn't have to happen in a straight line, but from a high time frame VWAP perspective, 50k is our destination at this point. So that should be a sort of high time frame bias, I would suggest, unless we can flip that 66k level, re-accept above this range and get into the previous value. So 50k I've marked out down here is sort of the breakdown level that I would aim for should we lose this value ultimately. So how to deal with this now? I mean, I think there were good opportunities to get short here. Hopefully, if you're not short BTC, you're in some alt shorts because they tend to pay better. But it's ugly, isn't it? It's really not looking. It's really not looking good at this point. Obviously, we have FOMC this week, but I don't. Gut feel, I think it's probably going to be a bearish FOMC for risk, but for political reasons, I think more than anything. So, yeah, it's not looking great here, and I think the absolute bullish line in the sand would be this point of control. So if we lose 63.9, I think you want to be very risk off at that point. So yes, we could get bounces. For example, we have this 3 weeks of value. We obviously failed above that. We should assume that we try and traverse down to the 63-week composite low. But losing this POC now, having had a couple of retests of it which were successful, would be really bad news. All of this positioning then starts to look very offside, and risk of a significant unwind, similar to the kind we saw in late May, early June. Where the move was very one-sided, and we just unwound all of this sort of weak positioning, which we've seen again, right? This is just all weak positioning in this area, and it is very vulnerable to a big nuke. So that's my bias. I mean, as I say, if we flip 66k for any reason, then we can aim higher. But this is a huge area of resistance, being previous month's value high, 2024's VWAP, and the sort of overlap between these two ranges. So for me, it looks absolutely cooked now. And I think my base case is that we traverse down to here and then perhaps spend some time chopping and consolidating at support before it breaks down. Something like that, right? I think, it could be a bit more two-sided until we get out of this value. But once we lose, say, 60k, personally, previous month's value low, you can see we've got this sort of nice ledge in terms of volume here at around 60k. If we get below that, I think it's a new trendy move to the downside. So we'll see. I may be wrong. Maybe we can have another attempt and sweep higher into the 90-day or something. But as things stand, it looks bearish. So I have to assume that for the time being. I don't really have a plan to get long anywhere here right at the moment. The long was here at the weekend. Take profit. Obviously, if you round trip some, so be it. But yeah, not looking too good right now. Okay, so that's really it for BTC. The other thing we saw today actually was quite interesting was the ETH volumes flipping BTC's volumes again on a 24-hour rolling basis. And very often that's a sort of pretty classic top signal in crypto. So yeah, plenty of reasons to be risk off right now, I would suggest. All right, let's have a look at some other things. Slightly concerned that the stream is frozen and I'm just talking to no one. Let me just double check. So just bear with me a second. I just want to double check this before I carry on, otherwise I'm going to feel very stupid afterwards. My internet's dropped out. It's not working particularly well. I'll just click the link and have a look on my phone. All right, let's move on. Let's take a look at Hype. Something is awry. don't know if it's my VPN playing up. That would be very unfortunate because everything was working perfectly earlier. Sorry about this. Fuck off. Yeah. Looks good. Okay, cool. Okay, so hype's looking rough, right? I mean, it has been for some time. If we zoom right out, first of all, so the first sort of warning sign for me, we came into the macro 414 extension of this leg, which was a pretty big level of fib resistance. I tended to lean on that quite heavily a lot of the time, and it played out almost to the tick. So if I just drag this and get our extensions up, right, we came and tagged that 414. So there's a bit of discretionary alpha for you. And then, we really started printing very strong momentum divs on the high time frames. So 3-day, we got 1, 2, 3 divs on RSI and 3 on, obviously awesome oscillator, which is a little slower, obviously, also showing a big loss of momentum across these highs, right? I always pay attention to these high time frame signals. I don't really care about RSI 99% of the time, but when you see 3-day and weekly divs, you really want to be paying attention to that because it's likely to be an inflection point in the market. And sure enough, we printed the first high, some consolidation, a big nuke. This is your first sign of potential distribution, right? Where you get some consolidation and then that positioning nukes, a retest, another retest. This time we couldn't accept within this previous value. And we then, eventually got reacceptance within this broader composite value. And that was a sort of real sign that, this is over, right? So here, tested the point of control, traded up. That was on the IPO news for something. I can't remember exactly what. Big failure here. And this was really the good opportunity to get into a nice swing short. Even today, I think it's fine, right? So we've spent a few days consolidating here at support. This is a failed auction of these 5 days of value, and then we're now breaking down from that on really high volume selling, nice staircase up, and just this one elevator candle just engulfing all of the sort of weekend's price action. So I would assume that this 57.90 area, 58 area now is resistance. It's this value low from late May. So we had 8 days of value here in late May, which is what this rectangle is. So we're trading below that. And we've broken down, obviously having failed above the highs of this from this 5-day as well. So I think that this 5-day low is likely to be significant resistance. And obviously, given how long we've been trading here, if this value does break to the downside, we can expect a fairly significant move lower. And I've made no secrets about my thoughts on this. I think 44 is a really attractive level to bid potentially. It's this untested point of control. It's the 365-day VWAP, previous quarter's value low, previous year's value high, and so on and so forth. So there's a huge amount of confluence around this 44 to 45 area. If we should, get a decent nuke out of this value, that is where I would really ideally look to reposition long and perhaps buy spot again. So yeah, it looks most likely to me, right? We're losing the 90-day VWAP here. There's this big sort of void. We just traded through this area without coming back and retesting anything. So very likely that we trade through that, perhaps spend some time here in a new range before ultimately testing lower. But overall, it doesn't look very good. So I'm very much bearish hype towards sort of 44, 45, and then we'll have to see. People were shitting on me for being bearish on it up here, and then over the weekend I saw calls for like 20 and 30 again. So it's just the way it goes, isn't it? Zcash, I mean, everything looks shit, doesn't it? Pump, I don't know, it looks all right, but this is a key area of resistance. So the reason I'm picking on Pump is because it's a bit of an exception at the moment, obviously having traded up today and shown a bit of strength over the past few days or so. Long period of balance here, traded below, inverted head and shoulders reclaimed. So this was a good long, and then flipping this point of control. But we've so far been unable to break out of this value. So, this is the key level we need to break to the upside to get any continuation. We are above yearly VWAP, so that's good. And we have back tested that as support today as well. So if we're just going to zoom in, yeah, I mean, we've back tested at support. The problem is this is, clearly some absorption going on here, right? We've had these attempts to break higher, wicks showing that it's just getting absorbed. So it really does need to break 2140 if we're going to see any more upside. And then I do think we will see rapid expansion towards yearly value high if that does happen, which is just, this previous balance essentially. So if we can break up, I think you're going to see a pretty quick sort of 15 to 20% move. And then this would be next resistance, but having failed here is not great. And I think if we lose this composite high, which is just a couple of days here, right? But if we lose that level, then I'd probably, have to abandon all bullish ideas in this coin for the time being. So I do have a little spot bag I picked up yesterday, closed out my perp for now. If we lose that, potentially a short. If we can break out here, potentially a long, up towards there. So it's pretty clear, right? Just have to see how it evolves. Hello, JLee47Y, yo to you as well. Hope you're doing well, mate. Okay, so what else to say here, really? I mean, the market looks pretty trash, doesn't it? So, pending any sort of bullish surprise around FOMC, I think we're in trouble. Just take a look at Solana as well, just to sort of drive home this point. I mean, this is quite a nice setup, bearish setup. So, long period of consolidation, really quite straightforward swing short here. We front ran this composite just about. I was looking for 55 on that leg, and I think now, this kind of structure looks pretty piss. And if I just clean up these markups, we can start talking about it a little more objectively. So we had a little bit of balance here, right? 4 days of balance, a little bit of structure provided, failed to break above this balance here, above the 90-day. Nice clean displacement below, and then just a bearish retest and clear compression between these rolling VWAPs. So this is the sort of thing you see before you get, big trendy moves, is this compression of the trends of volatility. It's just showing contraction before expansion. So I think this is ready to expand. This is a bearish retest of this value. If we lose this 72.50 level, so this is the value we formed from 1st of June, right? So just some overlapping value here. Eventually got this nice breakout retest, having tested the lows. If we re-accept within that, really straightforward short down to 64. I mean, that's as free as it gets. So yeah, level to level one, 72.50 to 64. And then, if we break down, I think we probably go to 55. So, but that's looking like it's ready to trend lower for sure. And I think that's about it for today. So, I don't really have anything positive to say. Pengu was looking relatively promising, I would say, but this has failed and now looks absolutely awful. And this is the problem with when you're in a higher time frame downtrend, right? You really have to respect that and be open to the possibility that your bullish setups are just going to get fucked. So, here we saw a really nice momentum loss, right? So nice rounding out. Sort of saw the 7 and 30-day VWAPs, which are the white and green ones respectively, getting compressed, starting to potentially cross up. We're then looking at potentially reclaiming this value, potentially getting a breakout of this 4 weeks, and then it just gets bonked again, right? So everything starts to look constructive, and then bang, no, you're going lower. So that's just the nature of bear markets, right? You have to be really cautious with positioning to the long side, and really, there's no harm in being a bit late. I've seen a lot of people talking about being early. Like, the thing that happens in a bear market is you're going to get a long bottoming process. So even if you end up waiting and waiting and waiting, and then just buying that breakout, you're still going to outperform the vast majority. And, at that point you have certainty. So all you're missing out on is the range, which is going to typically be, anything from 10 to 20%. So, just as a rule of thumb. I think that's all I really have to say today. I'll try and make these streams a little bit more entertaining going forward, and perhaps introduce some topics. I've got a few thoughts on what I might do next time. But yeah, that's probably about it for today. So we'll see how the week goes. I mean, obviously FOMC is a bit of a curveball. I wouldn't say it's completely dead and buried unless we lose sort of 63.8 definitively, but it's not looking good for now. So catch you next time, guys. Cheers for tuning in. And please check out TX Flow if you have time. Thanks. Bye for now.